With the 31st pick in the draft, the Indiana Pacers select Wendell Moore from Duke University. Moore is a hard-nosed high flyer who can truly be described as a 3-and-D wing. He grew as a scorer, defender, passer, and most importantly, as a leader. Duke made it all the way to the Final Four, and Moore's leadership was a big part of that tournament run. Moore has the size and athleticism of an ideal modern NBA wing. It allows him to be an impactful defender on the ball and off the ball. He had one of the largest wingspan differentials in the entire draft, making him a relentless pest to his opponents. His one glaring flaw is his blow-by ability against tight defense, which may limit him to being an off-ball player. At the NBA Combine, he jumped 38 inches on his max vertical jump. This type of athletic ability, combined with his improved shooting and playmaking, should have Moore drafted within the first 30 to 35 picks. There's no doubt that Moore has the skill set to fill an important role on the NBA team. With the 32nd pick, the Orlando Magic select Jaden Hardy from the G League Ignite. A year ago, this guy was projected to be a top 5 pick in this draft class. One of the top prospects in this high school class opted to play a year in the G League instead of playing college basketball. But his play during the G League season didn't necessarily impress NBA scouts as many expected. Hardy is a gifted offensive talent, and he scored a ton of points during his G League campaign, but wasn't efficient at all. While he did lead the Ignite in scoring with 17 points per game, he did it on 17 shots. Hardy shot 35% from the floor and 27 from 3. In rhythm off the catch, Hardy showed flashes of being a knockdown shooter. Off the dribble, he really struggled to score at an efficient level. He was the primary scoring option for the team, so his turnover numbers as a result of his high usage are understandable. But Hardy won't get nearly as many shots he got in the G League in the NBA. He'll have to prove he can be an impactful scorer on a much lower volume of shots. Hardy wasn't a bad defender during his time in the G League, but he wasn't a stopper either. Whatever team drafts him will probably need to send him back to the G League to refine his game to better prepare him for the NBA. The Toronto Raptors had an amazing bounce-back season as they were able to go from 27 wins from the previous season to 48 wins this past season, a 21-game improvement. There were a lot of reasons why the Raptors won only 27 games. The number one reason was that they never played at home because of the pandemic. They played in Tampa, Florida for the entire 2020-21 season, but they were back in Toronto this past season, and there were a lot of players on the Raptors that played up to their potential. Fred VanVleet was named the All-Star for the first time. Pascal Siakam was able to put up All-Star level numbers, and the rest of the young core improved their games that led to the bounce-back season. Scottie Barnes is the player to get most excited about if you're a Raptors fan. He had a very productive all-around season that led to him winning the Rookie of the Year award. With the Raptors reestablishing themselves as a threat in the East, they probably need to make a couple of changes to put themselves in a better position to be a legit contender for the NBA championship. The Raptors don't have a first-round pick this year because they traded it to the San Antonio Spurs in the Goran Dragic Young trade. With the 33rd pick in the draft, the Toronto Raptors select David Roddy from Colorado State University. Roddy is a 6'6", 260-pound forward who is the most unique prospect in this draft class. He presents matchup problems for teams given his size and ability to score inside and out. With an improved shot, Roddy figures to be a floor spacer at the next level. His ability to play make and get his teammates involved is something special for a player his size. Roddy's football background is where his playmaking skills came from, as he was an all-state quarterback in high school in Minnesota. Roddy is built like a center in a playmaking forward's body. He uses his big frame when he's driving to the rim to draw fouls, as he attempted around 5 free throws per game last season. Roddy had a breakout junior campaign, highlighted by career highs with 36 points and 7 threes in a win over Creighton. He led Colorado State to their first NCAA tournament appearance since 2013 and their highest AP ranking since 1954. Roddy's three-point shooting skyrocketed to 45%, which speaks to his work ethic. Three-point shooting was a big area of improvement for Roddy, and that goes hand in hand with his ceiling and ability to grow as a player. His best position in the NBA will most likely be as a power forward. His 6'11" wingspan may allow him to guard bigger players, despite being 6'6". He definitely has the strength to hold his own against big men. A player like PJ Tucker is one of the players he should emulate to be able to stick into the league for a long time. Although his body fat percentage was relatively high, he performed very well in athletic testing at the NBA Combine. Roddy's versatility with his size, three-point shot, and playmaking might be what brings him to the Raptors as a second-round pick. With the 34th pick in the draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Gene Matoro from Overtime Elite. He's an intriguing point guard prospect who has a lot of traditional skills for that position. He stands at 6'3" with impressive ball handling skills and agility. He plays with toughness and has great touch on his passing. Matoro is at his best when he's attacking the basket and running a fast break. He also flashed the ability to create his own shot from mid-range and from beyond the arc. The 18-year-old has a slender frame and is still maybe a few years away from truly contributing. He was much more talented than his opponents during his time at Overtime Elite. His average performance in Portland at the Nike Hoop Summit didn't do him any favors. Despite questions about his shooting consistency and defense, his playmaking ability and his feel for the game should still translate. He can add value to a backcourt that could use an extra spark on offense. Matoro also needs to improve defensively and will certainly be tested early in his career. But still, there is a lot to like about Matoro as a long-term prospect. It is a difficult sample size to evaluate. He has the feel of a true point guard. His feel within the offense and vision as a passer is especially exciting. Giving him a few years to develop could end up giving OKC a long-term backup point guard. With the 35th pick in the draft, the Orlando Magic select Christian KOLOKO from the University of Arizona. At 7'1", KOLOKO is a major presence down low. He has an impressive 7'5" wingspan that was second to only Mark Williams at the NBA Combine. That length, along with his anticipation, allowed him to be one of the best rim protectors in the country this season, averaging around 3 blocks per game over 37 games played. Opposing big man had a hard time attacking him in the paint, and he could hold his own on switches against guards because of his agility and quick feet. His long frame also helped him when it comes to rebounding. KOLOKO finished second in total rebounds for the Pac-12. From his vertical leap to his lane agility, KOLOKO was all over the leaderboards at the NBA Combine, showing he definitely has an NBA-ready body and outlook. On offense, he got most of his buckets around the rim. He can snag offensive rebounds and go right back up with it. He's also a serious lob threat. The main reason why he's a very efficient scorer is because he's not a good outside shooter at the moment, and he didn't take many of them. His shot release is very slow and allows time for the defenders to get a good contest on it. His 73% from the free throw line is a positive on his outlook as a jump shooter in the future. KOLOKO definitely needs to put on muscle in order to compete with NBA centers. He has a thin frame and can easily get pushed around on the next level, which will limit his effectiveness early in his career. The Magic decided to give Wendell Carter an extension before the season and did not extend Mo Bamba. Bamba will be a restricted free agent this summer, and the Magic could move on from him, and if that's the case, KOLOKO will be a good option for them with the 35th pick. With the 36th pick in the draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Josh MINOTT from the University of Memphis. Despite seeing a limited role, averaging 14 minutes per game, MINOTT is an intriguing prospect at the next level. He has great length and athleticism, and he was the second most efficient player on the roster, posting a 23.7 rating. MINOTT's appeal is in his defense. He has decent footwork and length that gives him a lot of room for error. He plays with a super high motor and takes pride at getting stops defensively. He can stick with smaller guards on the perimeter, and he has some impressive highlights as a help side defender. He hustles back in transition, and he's a frequent chase down blocker. He finished his freshman season averaging around 2 blocks and 2 steals per 40 minutes. That's an impressive combination of numbers. If nothing else, MINOTT has the potential to be a great player on the defensive end of the court. His motor and athleticism translates to the offensive end as well. He's active on the offensive glass and is a live threat on the roll and out of the dunker spot. He finishes efficiently in transition and won't hesitate to quickly attack on straight line drives to the rim. He also has some potential as a passer. Now, he's not a traditional facilitator, but he did rack up a decent amount of assists in his long season at Memphis. He quickly looks for outlets after securing defensive rebounds, and he shows some nice vision at the NBA Combine scrimmages. Now, he's not a good shooter. Last season at Memphis, MINOTT shot less than 15% on his three-point attempts. He didn't take many shots from beyond the arc, which allowed defenses to play off and clog the lane. If MINOTT is able to at least become a respectable three-point shooter, he could evolve into a great role player off the bench. With the 37th pick in the draft, the Sacramento Kings select Caleb Houstan from the University of Michigan. Houstan was a 5-star recruit from Mount Verde Academy and was viewed as a potential top 5, top 10 pick before the season started. But Houstan, along with Patrick Baldwin, were definitely two of the biggest disappointments among incoming freshmen. There were times where Houstan showed why he was a 5-star recruit and looked like Michigan's best offensive player, especially when he was making his threes and thriving in the flow of the offense. But for the most part, he struggled to create his own shot or get to the free throw line. Overall, Houstan struggled with confidence all year. If he missed his first few shots of the game or got his shot blocked, you could see his body language shift and it'll be easy to forget that he's even out there. He led Michigan with 60 three-pointers and scored at least 13 points in 12 games. In those games, Michigan was 11-1. He was one of only 6 high major freshmen to make at least 60 three-pointers last season, and him and JABARI Smith were the only members of that group 6'8" or taller. Evidence of Houstan struggling to create offense shows by the fact that 72% of his made shots were assisted. It's clear that Houstan does not have the upside to be a star player on the next level, but he still can be an impactful role player. His size, defensive awareness, and perimeter shooting gives him a high floor as a prospect. Houstan would be a great value pick if he falls past the first round. He did decline the NBA Combine invite, which has draft experts speculating that he could have a first-round promise. With the 38th pick in the draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Gabriele Procida from Italy. Procida is an athletic scoring guard who consistently shows impressive creativity, footwork, and scoring versatility. The 6'7" Italian has a blend of on and off-ball scoring that makes him a perfect fit in anybody's rotation. He's a plus catch and shoot player from deep. Procida has a high motor and tirelessly moves off ball to get a clean look. He thrives as a transition scorer because of his athleticism and effort. When a teammate attempts a shot, he loves to crash the glass. He didn't play big minutes in his first season, but when he got into the game, he showed what he can do well, which was definitely shoot the three ball. He has solid mechanics and deep range, and profiles as a player who will only get better once he put on a little bit more muscle. He shot over 38% from three-point range and was getting up nearly 3 a game in only 15 minutes, so he's not afraid to let it fly. Procida has a solid handle and does have moments where you could envision him being a legit shot creator off the dribble with more time. Defensively, he has good anticipation and shot blocking potential and does play the passing lanes well on the perimeter. He's one of the most athletic international prospects this year, but he probably needs another year of EuroLeague competition before he comes to the NBA. Procida is a perfect target for drafting and stashing for the San Antonio Spurs. With the 39th pick in the draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Leonard Miller from Fort Erie International Academy. After flirting with the possibility of playing in college, Miller decided to put his name in the draft, and more than likely he will remain in the draft. He's definitely a project, that's for sure. He has drawn a lot of interest from NBA teams because of his size and skill set. At 6'11" with a 7'2" wingspan, Miller brings versatility on both ends and also has playmaking ability. There is a reason why this guy has guard-like skills for a player his size. He experienced a late growth spurt in high school and went from 6'4" to 6'11" in a short time span. and it's clear that he retains some of those ball handling and playmaking instincts. Miller definitely used his skill and athleticism to dominate the high school level by simply shooting over the top of the competition. He used his height very well when taking in between shots and should continue to do so at the NBA level when he gets switches. There were times against elevated competition where he looked a little overwhelmed, but there were also times where his elite tools were on full display for the world to see. He's a potential home run prospect in the eyes of many, but the key word here is potential. He still hasn't quite put things together, and he never played against college or international competition for a whole season. For as talented as Miller clearly is, he's far away from being a valuable NBA contributor. As often as he sees the floor and makes high-level decisions, he can make bad decisions with the basketball just as frequently, if not more so. He can sometimes play out of control, and that often leads to turnovers, missed layups at the rim, and simply taking himself out of the play. On defense, sometimes he loses focus and gets lazy, which leads to allowing some easy shots, offensive rebounds, and passes to occur because he's simply behind the play. His jump shot is not where he needs to be at this point, and he needs to be more focused and disciplined on defense. He's probably 2 years away from being 2 years away, but the talent is there. With the 40th pick in the draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select TREVOR KEELS from Duke University. At times this season, KEELS seemed like an obvious choice to head to the NBA. His stock skyrocketed after his 25-point performance in a season-opening win versus Kentucky. KEELS certainly had a lot of great moments this season also. There is obvious appeal for KEELS as an NBA prospect. He provides on-ball creation, shot making, and powerful point-of-attack defense. But his play this past season was up and down. His decision-making was inconsistent, and his jump shot remains a mystery. He only shot 31% from deep this season, and it was on a good amount of attempts per game. KEELS also dealt with a team-wide COVID pause in the middle of the season, and he also dealt with an injury. There are still reasons to feel mostly positive about his jumper, but it's not his strength. He simply overpowered college defenders at times. He needs his strength and craftiness to finish around the hoop because he's not the most athletic guard you'll see. He can put pressure on the rim, but he only shot 52% around the basket in the half court, which is average but not great. At around 220 pounds, he does a nice job applying his strength. It's one of the things that makes him so tough on the ball defensively, along with his quick hands. If KEELS gets in better shape, shows improved off-ball feel on defense, and cleans up his jumper, he could have a nice long career in the NBA. With the 41st pick in the draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Dalen Terry from the University of Arizona. Terry is a long, energetic swingman who could make an instant impact on the defensive end. He was named to the Pac-12 All-Defensive Team. Terry could be this year's Herb Jones, a switchable perimeter defender. At the NBA Combine, Terry tied for first among guards in standing reach and tied for second amongst guards in wingspan. His size and length will give teams hope as a bigger guard that can slide down to the wing spot. Offensively, Terry was more of a playmaker than a scorer at Arizona. He's both athletic and a crafty passer, a combination you usually don't see in a player his age. He shot 36% from three-point range as a sophomore last season, but there is no doubt that NBA defenses are going to dare him to make that shot. If he can stay on the court longer. Teams love to look for ball handlers and guards with length that can score off the dribble. Becoming stronger and learning how to use his length to his advantage will go a long way for Dalen Terry in his potential NBA career. But as of right now, his playmaking abilities and length is what projects him as possibly being one of the biggest sleepers in this draft class. With the 42nd pick in the draft, the New York Knicks select Peyton Watson from UCLA. While he was projected as a potential lottery pick coming into his freshman year, his play showed that he still has a very long way to go in his development. You have to look beyond the numbers and focus on his potential when debating if you want to take a chance on him. Watson has elite athleticism, great size and length, and has shown to be a very good defender on the wing. He only played just over 12 minutes per game at UCLA, and some scouts were surprised that he even declared for the draft. He only averaged 3 points per game and had terrible shooting numbers. So it makes sense to wonder if he should go back to school for another year. He showed flashes as a good facilitator, and he did play point forward in high school. Watson needs to improve drastically as a shooter, as he hit just 32% from the floor this season and a woeful 22% from three-point range. He's nowhere near being ready to contribute on the next level. He's a project, nothing more, nothing less. His pedigree as a high school recruit could be enough for a team like the New York Knicks to take a chance on him at this spot. I don't believe many people expected the LA Clippers to legitimately compete for a title this year because of the injury to Kawhi Leonard that occurred in June of 2021. It would have been ridiculous to rush him back and jeopardize his future. Kawhi did just sign a big extension last summer. The Clippers finished with the 8th best record in the West, the franchise's 11th consecutive winning record, and they had 13 victories when trailing by double digits, including a 35-point comeback in January. And that was despite Kawhi missing the entire season and George missing the majority of the season because of an elbow injury. They played their way out of a postseason berth during the play-in tournament after losing double-digit fourth-quarter leads against Minnesota and New Orleans. But regardless, this team is in a great position to seriously contend again for their first NBA championship in franchise history, with PG and Kawhi coming back next season. They also made great additions to the squad with Robert Covington and Norman Powell. There is so much talent on this roster that there may be some players that might not get the playing time they deserve. But it's a great problem to have for head coach Tyronn Lue. It's safe to say that the Clippers will be one of the favorites to win the title next season, obviously behind the Golden State Warriors. The Clippers have one draft pick this year, and it's in the second round. With the 43rd pick in the draft, the Los Angeles Clippers select Ismael Kamagate from France. He's an elite rim protector and athlete, and he could help an NBA team almost immediately in certain situations. He hasn't shown to be consistent just yet, but the flashes are extremely promising. Kamagate projects to be great in transition and in pick and roll situations. He flourished in that role in France and proved to be highly efficient in the paint. Standing at 6'11", the French center is a prospect that fits the mold of a modern big man. Kamagate has a ton of upside, but he lacks creation at this point in his career on offense. At 21 years old, Kamagate is not as young as many of his peers in his class, but that shouldn't be a reason for NBA teams to avoid him in the upcoming draft. He's not a great rebounder at this point, but he has the mobility and athleticism to improve on that going forward. The size and athleticism that he has makes him an elite rim protector that can truly change the opposing team's offensive game plan. He also got the body that's ready for the NBA. Isaiah Hartenstein made a nice impact for the Clippers this past season, and he could be a priority for the Clippers to re-sign this offseason. But adding another talented big man could still be a good idea, even if Kamagate doesn't immediately see the court early in his career. With the 44th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Andrew Nembhard from Gonzaga University. Standing at 6'4", has good size for the position, but what separates him from his counterparts is his high basketball IQ. It can come in many forms and on both ends of the court. For Nembhard, his intellect is most evident when operating in the pick and roll. His playmaking ability has remained a selling point for him since high school. He knows where everybody is on the court, and he uses his awareness combined with his elite decision making to facilitate to his teammates. He shot around 46% from the field at Gonzaga and 54% from inside the arc. He came into college as a shaky shooter, and that followed him in his first couple of years at Florida. He finished his senior year at Gonzaga shooting around 38% from deep on 4 attempts per game. His handle is not elite by any stretch, but he's pretty crafty, and his size allows him to deliver some highlight plays at the rim. Nembhard should project as a solid rotational NBA point guard with his combination of size, IQ, and skills. The Atlanta Hawks offense took a nosedive when Trae Young was off the court. Nembhard could come right in and become the best backup point guard Trae Young has ever had. Nembhard probably had the best performance during the scrimmages at the NBA Combine. He only played in one scrimmage, but his brilliant performance showcased that he's worthy of being drafted this year. The 22-year-old dropped 26 points and 11 assists, the most in a combine scrimmage in 4 years. Every offensive possession seemed to run through him, and for good reason. He dissected the defense and consistently got his teammates involved, while also being an aggressive scorer himself. NBA scouts saw things he never really showed at Gonzaga. He commanded the position like a true leader, with his decisive playmaking and ability to create his own shots in ways he really didn't show at Gonzaga. If the Hawks can get this guy, there won't be a big drop-off when he comes in for Trae Young off the bench. With the 45th pick in the draft, Julian Champagnie from St. John's University. Champagnie has been an excellent scorer in the last 2 seasons for St. John's. His numbers did dip a little bit this year, but he was a reliable shooter from deep and from the mid-range. He struggled to finish near the rim at times, but he does have the strength to eventually get better in that area. More than likely, he won't be asked to isolate or create as much, if any, on the next level like he did at St. John's. Champagnie does not have a diverse offensive game. He primarily scores from the perimeter, and with most of his scores in the paint coming by cuts and putbacks. He doesn't have a strong enough handle to be a true perimeter threat who can score using on-ball screens or collapse the defense by attacking the hoop. He will need to continue cutting and moving well off the ball, spotting up the shoot, and posting up smaller defenders. Champagnie was somewhat of a disappointment as a defender during his time in college. He does not have great control of his body when closing out on shooters, and he's not always in an athletic defensive stance. He didn't give the necessary effort on that end, mostly because he had a large responsibility on offense. If he can refine his game and become a solid defender, maybe he can be a solid rotation player coming off the bench. Gordon Hayward hasn't proven to stay healthy for the majority of the season for a while now, and Kelly Oubre's contract is unguaranteed for next season. The Hornets could use some more depth at that position. With the 46th pick in the draft, the Detroit Pistons select Jaylin Williams from the University of Arkansas. The 6'10" center has incredible defensive instincts, excels in help defense, has great vision for a player his size, and is a good defensive rebounder. His contributions on defense cannot be understated. He actually took 54 charges this past season, which was 1.4 per game, and 70 in his 2 seasons with the Razorbacks. That's just evidence that he analyzes that side of the floor, and he has great timing and positioning that helps him make these high IQ plays. His split-second defensive decision-making ranks among the best in this year's draft class. With the physicality that he plays with on offense and good touch on his free throw line jump shot, he has the potential to be a highly impactful role player. Williams is also gifted in creating open looks for others, whether that be from a stationary position on the floor or as he drives to the rim and collapses the defense. In consecutive games against Gonzaga and Duke, Williams combined for 34 points, 22 rebounds, and 6 assists. He has proven he can affect the game in multiple ways. He has flashed enough scoring around the rim, mid-range touch, passing skill, and defensive IQ for teams to feel good about his game in the future. With the 47th pick in the draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select J.D. Davison from the University of Alabama. After coming into his freshman year with a lot of hype as a 5-star recruit, Davis' season at Alabama was very underwhelming. In his only season with the Tide, he only averaged 8.5 points per game while turning the ball over almost 4 times per game. Davis is an elite vertical athlete. Once he has space and is able to reach top speed, he's impossible to stop. He is composed in transition for the most part and moves the ball fast. The ball doesn't stick, and he gets guys involved. He attacks the rim with ferocity, but at the same time he has no problem stopping on a dime and hitting a 12-footer. His ball handling skills are really not up to par with NBA league guards, but that's something he can work on with veteran players. He is a below average jump shooter, especially off the dribble, and he doesn't add a lot of value playing off the ball. That places a lot of weight on how quickly he can develop into a legitimate full-time league guard. NBA teams will simply go underneath ball screens until he can prove he can make shots consistently. Davison is really engaged and active on the defensive end and has the intangibles to be a great perimeter defender. His agility and awareness help him on switches, and he stays with shooters through multiple screens. There's a lot of upside with Davidson, but he will almost certainly need G League time out the gate, and he profiles as a long-term prospect. There would be no rush to get him out there on the court for the Grizzlies. They could re-sign Tyus Jones, and they also still have DeAnthony Melton. With the 48th pick in the draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select JABARI Walker from the University of Colorado. He certainly looks the part for a 3-and-D forward at the NBA level. His physical tools and imposing profile are exactly what most NBA teams are looking for a versatile forward on the NBA level. He stands around 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's more of a functional athlete with fluid hips and good feet. Those are athletic traits that teams can work with on both ends of the floor, especially on defense. Walker shot better in his freshman year compared to his sophomore year, but for his career, he's still a 40% three-point shooter. He shoots the ball confidently in transition, off the catch, and occasionally off the dribble. Defense and rebounding are also parts of his game where he excels at. He ranked 11 in offensive rebounding percentage and first in defensive rebound percentage, fighting for contested rebounds and displaying a good nose for the ball by hustling up loose balls outside his area. He was good on the ball and off the ball as a defensive player. He's not the type of player that will create opportunities off the dribble or set up his teammates as a playmaker, but his skill set as a 3-and-D player will give him a chance to be in the rotation consistently throughout his NBA career. Skills as a rebounder and a defender. There's reason to buy his improved jump shot, and he fits the mold as an athletic, floor spacing big man. He's not going to create a ton of shots for himself or for his teammates. He has a long, strong frame, but he doesn't always put it to use in the flow of the game. His stats went up in every category in his sophomore year, which is why he was named Big East Most Improved Player. He was also named to the All-Big East First Team after he led Marquette in scoring and rebounding. The 20-year-old is a proven scorer, but he still needs to work on being more consistent. In the NCAA tournament, he only shot 2 for 15 from the floor for 6 points in a loss to North Carolina. That had to leave a bad taste in his mouth since it was his final collegiate game of his career. He also needs to improve his ball handling skills. In today's NBA, players in the front court are more likely to be good at both handling and passing the ball. So Justin Lewis's game is going to need to evolve a little bit. With the 50th pick in the draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Max Christie from Michigan State University. Christie has all the tools to be a successful two-guard in the NBA. His shooting ability, defense, and body frame potential are all at the NBA level, but many still believe he could have benefited from another year in college basketball. He started all 35 games for the Spartans and emerged as perhaps the team's best perimeter defender. Christie showed his skill at creating his own shot from time to time throughout his freshman year. He's great at filling the court in transition and gets a lot of good looks that way, often running to open spots at the three-point line. Christie was touted as a great shooter coming out of high school, but he had a down year at Michigan State, only shooting 31% from three. He has a smooth, quick, and high release and steps into open shots with confidence. He was also great at catching and shooting. He put together 4 games of making at least 3 three-pointers, and also made 4 in one game. He scored 21 points once and scored at least 15 on 6 separate occasions. He struggled at finishing at the rim, only converting on 41% of his attempts at the rim. His explosiveness is average, and he relies on shot making rather than driving past his defender for the most part. Christie was consistently inconsistent throughout his freshman year. There's a lot to like about his game and potential to take a chance on him somewhere in the second round. With the 51st pick in the draft, the Golden State Warriors select KHALIFA DIOP from Senegal. Selecting Diop will be a major value pick at this point in the second round. At 6'11", 250 pounds, the Senegal native is a highly energetic big man that will be a great addition to the Warriors. He's an exceptionally mobile big man who plays the game with tremendous intensity. He's one of the most versatile defenders in this draft class. He has the frame and athleticism to protect the rim at a high level. On offense, he gets nearly all of his looks at the rim as a roller or a live threat in the dunker spot, leading to his efficient shooting. Regardless of where DIOP lands, he'll likely be a developmental piece, but his potential makes him a near lock to be selected in this year's draft. He has impressive size and strength, and it's a load when he gets the ball near the rim. He doesn't have much of a post game, but his high energy and high motor will lead to a lot of putbacks when he grabs the offensive rebound, something he was very good at doing. He will get drafted because of his potential as a big rim running, shot blocking big, who has good quickness for his size, runs the floor well, and knows how to finish. I know that the Warriors already have a raw big man in James Wiseman at the moment, but Diop is way too talented for them to pass on at this spot. Maybe Diop can develop faster than Wiseman, and the team could decide to move on from the former second overall pick of 2020. With the 52nd pick in the draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select John Butler Jr. from Florida State University. Butler is a guy with incredible size, fluidity, and skill that could help him become a very impactful player with more time and development. As a freshman, the 7'1" prospect displayed a diverse skill set in 31 games. At his size, Butler operated as a ball handler, defended multiple positions, and shot consistently from the three-point line. He shot 39% in his freshman year. As the NBA moves away from the traditional front court players who solely play in the post, Butler projects as a stretch big who is comfortable on the perimeter, specifically in pick and roll scenarios where he can pop at the three-point line and let it fly. His handles also makes him a threat leading transitions and fast breaks. His best game of the season came in early March against Notre Dame. He posted a career-high 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks in an upset victory for the Seminoles. He had 5 games on the season where he scored in double digits. There's real potential with Butler if the right team takes him and has patience with him. He's going to need some time to grow into his body. Many believe if he had came back for another season at Florida State, he could have been a first-round pick next year. The Boston Celtics had one of the biggest mid-season turnarounds in recent NBA history. When the Celtics got off to a rough start to the season, many of us were just waiting for the wheels to fall off. Marcus Smart called out Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for not getting their teammates more involved. And early on, this team was just not working well together. Not to mention the various injuries that kept this team from building chemistry and defensive presence. By late December, it looked like a complete disaster. The team's offense was hovering around the NBA's bottom 10. The Celtics had fallen to 23-24, 10th place in the Eastern Conference, a half a game ahead of the New York Knicks for the final spot in the play-in tournament. Ime Udoka, a first-time head coach, looked like he was in over his head. But it was probably the game against the Wizards when Tatum dropped 51 points to get the team back to 500. That was the turning point of the season. Since that moment, the Celtics have transformed into arguably the NBA's best team, finishing the regular season with one of the league's top records in that time span. It's crazy to think about now that there was chatter about breaking up the 2 stars on the team. But instead of jumping the gun and blowing it all up, the Celtics front office held firm, and eventually Tatum and Brown played like all-stars at the same time. They put to bed the early season doubts about their ability to coexist. It was Marcus Smart, Brown, and Tatum that pushed this team through a bad start early in the season, and now is one series away from winning the franchise's 18th championship. There's not really that much pressure to get a draft pick right when it's in the 50s. Just finding a talented prospect who you feel could be molded into the player you need is all you can ask for. With the 53rd pick in the draft, the Boston Celtics select Ryan Rollins from the University of Toledo. Rollins is a combo guard who is a smooth shot creator with the ability to create for not only himself, but for others. He has a great feel for the game, and even after 2 years in college, he's still only 19 years old. Rollins has tight handles and a quick first step to help break his man down in isolations, allowing him to get to his spots on a regular basis. He has total control of his body and finishes well through contact at a high level, connecting on 47% of his floaters and 59% of his shots at the rim. 3-point shooting is one of the biggest knocks against Rollins, but he did have a 57% true shooting percentage, which is proof that he can improve his 3-point game. As a freshman, he shot 32% from 3, and that number fell to 31% this past season. Rollins was one of 5 sophomores to score 1,000 points over the last 2 seasons. He just has the right blend of skills needed to succeed at the NBA level. He's still young, still developing, and has great length. He stands at 6'3" with a ridiculous 6'10" wingspan. Rollins improved across the board during his sophomore season. Defensively, he projects to be solid on that end due to adequate foot speed and strong instincts creating turnovers. And he loves playing the passing lanes. If he can be a stellar 3-level scorer while playing solid defense, he could safely be in the rotation of an NBA team. Because of his frame, his length, and great feel for the game, that gives me confidence that he can only get better. With the 54th pick in the draft, the Washington Wizards select Hugo Besson from France, who played for the New Zealand Breakers this past season. Besson is a 6'6" skilled point guard who is creative offensively and can get buckets in bunches. Besson is a flashy player with a great handle and is crafty enough to get by his defenders and knows how to finish once he gets to the rim. He only shot 30% from 3-point range, but that was on a high volume, so he profiles as a guy who will eventually become more accurate. He can run the pick and roll, but he also has experience running off staggered screens on catch and shoot opportunities. When Besson drives, he can hit floaters with either hand or pull up for a mid-range jumper. He's not just a scorer. Besson is a crafty playmaker. His court vision opens up the game for him. He is prone to taking a lot of bad shots, so his shot selection needs to improve. But his biggest weakness is his defense. He can't be targeted by opponents. His defensive instincts are average, and he doesn't have the athleticism to compensate. He will probably never be an above-average NBA defender. He played 25 games with the New Zealand Breakers, and his best game was on December 9th when he dropped a career-high 26 points and 8 rebounds. His offense is ideal for today's NBA, but his defense and his age are the 2 main reasons why he will drop in the draft. The Wizards are in need of a point guard, and the only one they have on their roster currently is Ish Smith. With the 55th pick in the draft, the Golden State Warriors select Michael Foster from the G League Ignite. Foster is a versatile big man who has the skills and physical ability to make an impact on both ends of the court. He has a very modern big man's game as a scoring forward who can handle the ball, create offense for himself, and can hit the outside shot. Foster already has 3-point range and has a very smooth looking release. Foster can score with his back to the basket and uses his size and power well to gain separation. At the NBA Combine, the first thing the NBA scouts noticed when Foster walked into the gym was his improved frame. He had lost 14 pounds and added some muscle mass and looked incredible. His body fat came in at around 6%, and he moved much better on the court than during the G League season. Foster helped himself a lot during the NBA Combine. He shot the ball well during drills and bullied players in the lane during the scrimmages. Defensively, he held his own too, something he really struggled at during the G League season. His shot has improved, and he's much more consistent as a pick and pop threat. He did a little bit of everything in his first scrimmage with 5 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. And in the second scrimmage, he finished with 14 points and 5 rebounds. The Warriors are in need of a big man who can be a threat on the offensive end while also not being a liability on defense. With the 56th pick in the draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select DOMINICK Barlow from Overtime Elite. Leonard Miller wasn't the only one who had a big growth spurt in high school. Add Barlow to that list. He measured in at 6'10", weighing around 220 pounds with a 7'3" wingspan. He made major strides in a number of areas. He scored efficiently across matchups with other Overtime Elite teams and a range of other prep programs. Most of his scoring came on effort plays off the ball and scoring in transition. Barlow also showed the ability to attack the rim and showed some good footwork in the mid-post area. Ranking among the most efficient offensive players in Overtime Elite, he flashed interesting versatility and plenty of room to continue to improve. Barlow attacked closeouts and made the simple play as a passer as well. Overall, Barlow is still evolving as an offensive weapon, but made notable strides with his skill set from his final year in high school. He's a good athlete who can play above the rim in space. He ranked in the 92nd percentile in transition scoring, making a consistent effort to beat the defense up the court or fill the lanes behind the play. Barlow was assertive, looking to play through contact, and took what the defenders gave him as a slasher, and was effective on the glass. Barlow struggled to convert consistently in the half court, but he did shoot the three well in transition and seemed to find a nice rhythm mid-year. He flashed some instincts in the passing lanes and as a shot blocker, but he will face a bit of a learning curve as an off-ball defender at the next level. Barlow has the size and athleticism to find a way to impact the game on both ends in the future. With the 57th pick in the draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Yannick Zosa from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Zosa is a very athletic, energetic big man who could project to be an elite rim protector in the NBA. He has played in some of the toughest professional basketball leagues. This past season, he only averaged 10 minutes per game. But prior to this season, he was the guy that many pegged for the first round. That's because he stands at around 6'11" with an impressive 7'6" wingspan, and he also has elite athleticism. His offensive skills are raw, and Zosa probably will never be a guy that hit jump shots on a regular basis. He projects more as a rim runner who will finish in transition and excel at scoring on off-ball motion plays. Zosa knows how to finish when he gets the ball moving downhill, and he plays above the rim on both ends. He already has an advanced feel finding gaps in the defense and knowing when to roll to the rim. He always seems to be moving and making himself available for easy buckets around the rim. The talent is certainly there for the 18-year-old, but he still has a lot of work to do. Zosa feels like a high-risk, high-reward type of player that could make it in the right system and be a steal in this class. With the 58th pick in the draft, the Indiana Pacers select Dereon Seabron from North Carolina State University. The 6'6" guard improved in pretty much every category while playing a number of different roles at NC State. Seabron can make plays off the bounce, run an offense, and is an aggressive downhill attacker. He's easily one of the most unique prospects in this draft class. At times he looks like a natural point guard with his feel as a passer and a playmaker. But he's also a high-level slasher that has the handle and shake and bake to his game to break down defenses when he drives to the basket. His ability to get downhill and relentlessly attack the rim is second to none. Seabron is a guard who just lived in the painted area and was one of the best at drawing contacts on his drives. He lived at the free throw line, finishing the year with over 200 attempts. Pretty good for a guy who is so predictable by the defense that they know exactly what he's trying to do, but they couldn't stop it. About 80% of his field goal attempts came at the rim. There's very little jump shooting to his game right now. Adding a reliable jump shot will obviously open up the driving lanes for him, and it will be much easier. He shot only 26% from three-point range, but at the NBA Combine, he finished the three-point star drill tied for fourth, making 15 out of 25 shots. He shot 71% from the free throw line, which bodes well for his long-term development as a shooter. Seabron recorded 12 double-doubles on the season and scored double-digit points in 30 of 32 games played, twice going over 30 points. He plays much bigger than his size. He's a wing that can out-rebound bigs who are 4 inches taller and outweigh him by 40 to 50 pounds. His game evolved throughout the season, and he plays some of the best offensive basketball in the country. The Pacers currently have a number of guards on the roster, but Malcolm Brogdon and Buddy Hield's future with the team is uncertain at the moment. Changes on this roster could happen in the near future. Seabron is just too talented for the Pacers to pass on him with the last pick in the draft.